Hey everyone. I have been talking for the past 10 minutes. I'm new to vocal, and I just realized that this wasn't recording. And I was saying some good stuff too. So I'm going to have to start over. This is Stacey Morris. Welcome to my broadcast. I'm glad you're here. And if no one's here yet, but I'm hoping there'll be some viewers who pop in or maybe see the archive later. But this is about how to handle the holidays. How are you handling them? Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling overwhelmed? I certainly have been off and on. And I just want to give you, before I delve into the holiday topic, I'll give you a little background on me. I am a wellness coach. I am a writer, journalist, and recovering American who has had battles with weight, eating, emotional eating, self-esteem since childhood. I struggled with it my whole life. And after lots and lots of trial and error and falling down and getting up, like Cardi B says, you just keep getting up. I finally had an epiphany at about age 44 and had a very big transformation. It has stuck. I basically, in a nutshell, I mean, you can check out my books on my website, staceymorris.com. But my strategy was, since I had been dieting and learning, absorbing all the advice from society and the diet industry since age 9, I had a real thorough, long list of what not to do, of what didn't work. So I just worked off of that and kind of did the opposite. But that's not what this broadcast is about. But that is my background, and I am by nature, it's probably in my genetic makeup from my ancestry. I really could care less about alcohol, but I'm an emotional eater. I love food. I still love it, but I've learned to love it in healthier ways. The holidays can be really, really challenging in so many ways. Just elevated everything. Everything's excess. There's excess stress, excess food, excess drink, excess spending. I mean, it can be and excess expectations of what, we think we should be doing for others. And, if you're like me, you probably feel sometimes like I'm never doing enough. I've got all these people to please. Holidays, I've got to remember everybody. And that's just not realistic, So I really want to start off by saying this is about taking a step back from expectations and overwhelm, number one, and just paying attention to yourself more, to what really is speaking to you. I mean, we all have these grand, at least I do, of things, here's how I want the holidays to happen. I want to send X number of cards out. I got to shop for people. I've got to bake for people. I've got to wrap. And it gets to be so much sometimes. And in the past, 5 years, I finally started to say, wait a minute, shouldn't this be, aren't we supposed to enjoy it to an extent? It shouldn't feel like we're always on a treadmill, always marching to somebody else's drumbeat. What about our own? And while, it's great to give and to share with others, we tend to neglect ourselves, I think, especially as women. We come in dead last on the list usually. And that can add up to just plain old stress, resentment, burnout. And, I don't like I hear this a lot. And so I think that's why I did this broadcast. I hear so many people say how they don't like this time of year for a variety of reasons. Obviously, nobody really digs the shorter days and the cold weather. If you live up, in some parts of the country where I do, I'm in the Northeast. It's usually pretty bitter cold here, and that can be a downer. But people just feel so frazzled. Number one, there's the expectation factor. I've got to do, I've got to keep up. But there's something else that it becomes Yes, we're back. I don't know what happened, but welcome back. I hope you're still with me. The older I get, as I was saying about stress and overwhelm, fewer people are around. People die, people leave us. There are fewer people at the table, and that can have a real sting. I mean, at any time of the year, but in particular, childhood memories and things, memories of how your tree looked and songs that you sang or cookies your mom baked, whatever. It can be really, it can hit you right here. So this is what I practice myself and what I tell my clients. There's no getting around that. There's no, and really, stuffing it down with food is, it's not going to really solve anything. I tried it. I practiced it religiously for 20 years. Okay. And it didn't help. It compounded the problem. I gained weight. I was 300 pounds for at least 20 years. I was in a physical prison. So my advice, take it from me. It's so much easier in the long run to just feel whatever's going on, feel the feelings. And that's all they want, is to be felt and acknowledged. We tend, I think as a culture, we've been conditioned to chase feelings away, to judge them, to say, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here, to treat them like intruders or misbehaving children, when all they really want is to just be listened to and respected a little bit. Trust me, and then they just pass through. I mean, you let it go, you feel it and let it go. So that's a key point to remember when handling the holidays. It's a challenging time of year. And let me see, I'm just looking at my notes. Then there's the obvious, the matter of food. I mean, there's just so much extra food around. Much of it's very caloric. It's stuff that we don't usually eat or drink the rest of the year. And that can be just a total overload. And, if people are wondering, like, how do I mitigate temptation, or how do I avoid it? Really, what it boils down to, when eating is so personal. So it really, truly goes back to your mindset. If you're in a place like I was, say, 10, 15 years ago, where I wanted no part of eating less, I needed food to get through the day, to manage some of the stressful, painful things that were going on in my life. And food was my fulfillment. Now, that wasn't, obviously not the first best choice, but that's all I could do at the time. If I could have done something different, I would. But that was a coping technique that got me through the day, got me through the week. If that's where you are, just acknowledge it and don't judge that. But you can work on other parts of your life. You can work on your spirit. You can meditate. You can move. I mean, when I was in the throes of my eating and giving up food was out of the question, I'd go to the gym and pump iron. It made me feel more powerful, and I was doing something. It was helpful. It was better than sitting on the couch. Um, you know, go into something that fulfills you. Join a group. Join a support group. Join a hobby. Work towards fulfilling yourself in ways that you can. Little baby steps. Nobody makes this giant leap from being in the mud to being in the clouds. It's a process. It took me years to go down different roads and try different solutions. And that is how I learned. I never, looking back, I don't consider any of it to be a failure. I had to learn through experience. And so if you're in that mindset, fine, just enjoy the food as best you can. But I would just eat with awareness. That is such a key thing. Eat with awareness and appreciation. If you're in that place of needing food for comfort, at least try not to black out. That can be progress. Eat and enjoy it. Eat and be grateful for it, and don't berate yourself. The way I eat now, it's been a gradual transition. Like I said earlier, I learned through my lifetime of dieting what not to do. So dieting was out. I don't like too much control where my food's concerned. That's just me. Some people like to weigh and measure. They like to write it out ahead of time. That doesn't work for me. But what I'm very clear about and what really works well is I listen to my body and I dialogue with it, and I totally give my body the floor, basically. It's so much wiser than I will ever be. Its capabilities are beyond me. It regulates, my heartbeat, my body temperature, my metabolism. It knows what to do. So my only job is to listen to it and say, okay, am I hungry? And if so, what am I craving? Because cravings can be really tied in. Once you get a good relationship with your body, they can be definitely tied in to what your body's needing. So, like today, I asked myself I always have fruit in the morning and on an empty stomach. And then I was starting to get hungry. And I said, okay, what am I craving? I had some paleo blueberry muffins that I made ahead of time. I always have eggs on hand. And I decided craving something savory. So I made some scrambled eggs with olive tapenade and some tomatoes. I did a low carb type of a lunch, brunch lunch. That's usually what I do. And I know tonight I'm going to have leftover gluten-free lasagna. I'm having carbs. So that's kind of how I balance it. But listening to your body is key. And this time of year, we get so many things not thrown at us, but they're just at parties, at the office. There are platters of things. There are pictures of things. And sometimes it can be very useful to just have a very calm discussion with yourself. Like, do I really want that? Oh yeah, that looks good. That looks good over there, but do I really want it? And sometimes I will go for that piece of chocolate or the cookie if I really truly want it. And I know the difference now between having a genuine craving and wanting to experience the pleasure of something sweet versus just kind of eating because it's there. And eating because it's there gets into a little bit of a dangerous territory because it adds up. If you eat because it's there 10 times a day, it's going to add up. So, and actually it reminds me, I was in a grocery store last week and I was just amazed. I'm dairy free. That's part of my story, which you'll see on staceymorris.com. So I don't eat cow dairy, and I've been doing almond milk for years. I was walking by the dairy case and I saw this like 2 or 3 cases full of non-dairy eggnog options. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad. That's very cool. And I used to love eggnog. But it's like one of the most caloric things on the planet. It tastes wonderful. But I looked at it and I thought, there was part of me that kind of automatically said, let me get one. And then I'm like, well, I don't really love eggnog. It's not like I gotta have it. And let me check out the calories and what's going on here. It turns out there's quite a bit of sugar in it. And it just didn't, the combination of me not really, really being attracted to it and the high calories, I'd rather spend them elsewhere. So the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to automatically, just because there's a suggestion, you don't have to pounce on it. Practice a little discernment, where food and drink are concerned, and take the middle road. I'm not saying bring, who wants to bring carrot sticks to a party? I don't. I mean, that's not my idea of a good time. But I will bring my own version of, some hors d'oeuvres. I just made for Chef Bill, my fiance, I made him a gluten-free pizza out of a gluten-free tortilla with, again, olive tapenade. Can't say enough about that. Recipes in my Clean Comfort cookbook. And some cheese, because he's not dairy-free. He said it was like the most delicious pizza he's ever had. So I can make little, small versions of that. I can use goat cheese. And there's just things you can do. I have cookbooks full of hors d'oeuvre ideas and appetizers. So it doesn't have to be black or white. I mean, back in the old days when I was growing up, it was, oh yeah, bring the celery sticks to the party. Well, that's punishment. Come on, unless you really love celery, which I don't, but find an alternative. I mean, I dropped 180 pounds through eating foods moderately. My stomach decided the amount. There was nobody watching me or telling me what to do. And eating foods that tasted good. Number one, it's got to taste good, or why bother? I think I need to turn the light on. It's getting dark. The food's got to taste good, but it also has to be nutritional. I mean, for years I ate strictly for pleasure. I didn't care about nutrition. I cared about what it do for my taste buds, and I paid the price. If you go to my my website, and you'll see before pictures of me at 320 pounds and wearing black all the time and being, I was not very happy or comfortable at that size. Everything's more difficult. And so find a middle road. And, you don't have to, I mean, it's your choice, but a lot of people just say, it's the holidays, I'm going to do what I want, and then I'll start in January. That, just take little steps now. Don't look at it as you're giving up your life or you're starting a diet. Forget that D word, because the diets are designed to be temporary. They're designed to be unpleasant. And most of the promises that are made by the people who create the diets are exaggerated at best, if not false. So just forget about starting that diet in January. Why don't you just say, I'm going to take some middle road steps and enjoy food. And I'm also going to have some healthy food and maybe go out there on the blogosphere, go to my website. There are plenty of others. There's a great one called Empowered Sustenance. She has some wonderful recipes. Joy Food Sunshine is another one of my favorites. So many healthy blogs out there. And have some fun. Try a new recipe. Make it fun. It should not feel like punishment. Because otherwise, guess what? We all know what happens when we feel punished. We want compensation. We want revenge. At least that's how I was. I'm looking at my notes. So apart from food, I really do recommend some coping strategies that will just help you feel more at ease in general. As much as you can, even if it's once a day, take some quiet time. Even if it's just a few minutes to slow down your breathing. We don't get enough quiet time. We don't get enough time generally away from our keyboard or a television screen. Our bodies and our souls and our psyches need silence. It's an underrated commodity. And this goes for all year, of course, but especially at this time of year when we're all a little bit more high strung. So seek out some quiet and solitude. Even a few minutes helps. Also, I was reading this today about the power of fire, and certain philosophies and religions really utilize fire as part of connecting with the divine. Even if you're an atheist, we all know how beautiful and peaceful even a single candle looks. So get out some candles. Votives are great because you don't have to watch them. They don't drip, and you can get a decorative holder. I have several. In fact, there's one on, you can't really see it, but I have a candle lit now. Love candles. Oh, here's another coping strategy for balance. I'm going to practice it right now because my throat's getting dry. Stay hydrated. It's so important. It's so important. This is, by the way, I am a big water drinker. This is ginger water. I steep some actual, ginger root in water. It's really, really good for digestion, and it's energizing. Stay hydrated. Can't say enough about that. If you have time, it always helps me. It centers me to declutter. Just organize my environment a little. We don't tend to do so well amid clutter and chaos. And even if it's just a few items, toss them, put them in a Salvation Army pile, give them away. There are Facebook groups now for garage sales in your region, and it's a great way to get rid of unwanted stuff. And it'll just make you feel more at ease. Trust me. I mean, I used to be very, very, very reluctant to let go of things, and I would consider everything around me sentimental, and I realized I have too many pictures, I have too many books. I mean, it didn't feel good. So start to assess that and say, well, where can I just make a little more space? Space is very, very, it's very equalizing. I feel, the more space I have in my room, whatever room I'm in, the better I feel. And I think most homes are a little overstuffed. At least that's been my experience. And also along the lines of decluttering, this is just something I decided to do because I'm like, I've had enough of this. I have too many emails coming at me. So I am unsubscribing to probably about 80-90% of the things I subscribe to. I literally can't even get through half my emails. So as I go along, you don't have to set aside time. Just as they come in, unsubscribe unless it's something you really, truly want to stay connected to. And the last tip I'll give you, I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this, but obviously we all spend too much time with electronics. One thing you can do for yourself, and this is such a healing, wonderful thing to do, is work on your relationships. Nurture them. Eyeball to eyeball, not texting, not your phone, not your keyboard. I mean, that has its merits. That can be a wonderful connecting thing, but I don't want it to be the sole means of my, relationships. If that's the case, then something's out of balance. And I have been trying to really make a point of getting together with people in person. There has been some surprising resistance because we get so trapped in these cycles that face to face, it like freaks people out. So I'm currently working on trying to get a few of my friends, to release the vice grip they have on their phones and their keyboards and actually meet with me. And wish me luck. I'm surprised at how difficult it's been, but I'm not giving up because face-to-face, eyeball to eyeball, that's really the ideal way to connect. It's not always possible, but do it when you can. Connections are everything. And one of my favorite ways to just gain equilibrium and get some peace and, just calmness in my life. And, electronics, they're here to stay. I understand that, but I still love connecting to paper. There's nothing like it. So this is a book I'm reading. I am not a Kindle person. This is a book on feng shui and decluttering, and I love it. It's not a big book. It's a very easy read. It's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, the Japanese art of decluttering and organizing. And her bottom line here is keep something. And she has a great blog you can get on. She's one person I'm not going to unsubscribe from, but her main philosophy is, does it bring you joy? Then you can keep it. And so that's what I'm working on right now. I read this. It's been a little bit. Sometimes I like, I don't know if I can do all the things she's saying, but I'm plodding along because, I want a more open, free, non-cluttered life. And I just love holding books. This book is about yoga. I recommend it highly. Yoga Beyond Asana. We all think of yoga as, the postures and the physical moves, but there are 8 limbs, and it's all about paying attention to yourself, within, and befriending yourself and being honest with yourself. It's fascinating. Check out, if you're into that, check out the 8 limbs. Here's another way you can connect with paper. Make someone a card. This was sent to me from one of my dear friends, and she made it herself. It's like a collage, and she wrote it. I love handwriting. I just wrote some letters yesterday, and it felt so good to just sit there. I mean, it's therapeutic. What can I say? I think we're meant to communicate that way, and that gets lost in the electronic shuffle. Here's another good book, Clean Comfort. This is my first cookbook. It's my cookbook memoir. This is the old cover. There's a new cover, but you can go to my website or Amazon and order it. And this journal, see what it says? Love you to the moon and back. That's for me. This is my journal, and this is how I treat myself now. I am a precious commodity. End of story. But look, it's a journal. And sometimes I'll write down pearls of wisdom. I'll write down insights. I'll write down, my feelings, whatever. But this is one of my favorite ways to connect with paper. And it's also a great way to, it's 2 for 1. You get a little silence too. So anyway, I hope some of these ideas have helped. I hope they're useful. And whatever you celebrate, actually today is, I think it's winter solstice. So everyone have a really blessed solstice, peaceful solstice. And let's celebrate the fact that starting tomorrow, the days are going to be longer. Yay. I'm so happy. I don't love winter, but what can you do? The seasons are the seasons, accept what is, and have a wonderful holiday season on your terms. What matters to you? Listen in here. You don't have to please. Don't even try to please everybody. And don't let yourself get lost in the shuffle. What you want matters too. Stop and, well, there are no roses this time of year, but, stop and smell the mistletoe or the hot chocolate or, whatever, or the paleo cookies that I'm going to bake later. I have a lot of great recipes on my website. Have a peaceful rest of your day, and thank you for listening. I'll catch you next time. This is Stacey Morris. Merry Christmas.